Hello, everybody. I am back. I am back with the promised guide to Exosister. Um, Exosister is kind of my backup deck. My main deck is Marincess, but when I get tired of that deck, or I just get too frustrated on the ladder playing Marincess, I switch over to Exosister. So I decided I wanted to make a guide for it. In case you also wanted a modern backup deck. So uh, let's do a brief, this is going to be similar to my Marincess guide, in which I kind of aim at an audience of folks who are either newbies to Masterduel, where they're returning to Yu-Gi-Oh! After, 15, 20 years hiatus, or it's for those of you who have been playing Masterduel, but you've stuck to kind of nostalgia / anime decks like Dark Magician, and now you want to step your game up with a more modern deck. So we're going to do kind of a brief discussion of the deck. I'm not going to read the text of every single card right now. That'll happen during the gameplay examples. So, but let's go over this deck real quick. So Exosister is an Xyz deck, as you can tell by these black Xyz extra deck monsters. It is a rank 4 base deck. You'll see all the main deck monsters are level 4, and you'll see most of the extra deck monsters are level 4 as well. And so Exosister can be characterized as a kind of mid-range deck. You do have some combo elements. You do have one or two kind of combos. And you also have, it's mid-range in that you have some interaction with your opponent's deck, but it's not a full kind of stun or, negate kind of board that you're setting up. The other thing that is notable about Exosisters is that it's an anti-graveyard activity deck, and whenever decks that rely on the graveyard are meta, Exosister becomes more viable and more popular. So, for example, about a year ago now, when Tearlaments were dominating Masterduel, Exosister was considered one of the few alternatives to Tearlament in that meta. And why is Exosister considered an anti-graveyard deck? Well, for a few reasons. One, the primary way in which you will be interacting with your opponent's deck is by banishing their cards, right? And that is both from the field and the graveyard. So, because you're banishing your opponent's cards, they won't be able to use them in the graveyard. Now, unlike Kashtira, you are banishing cards face up rather than face down. So, and indeed, the main drawback of Exosister really is that it's not as objectively good as Kashtira. And you may ask, why play Exosister when you can play Kashtira? And the answer is you don't want to be, the main answer is you don't want to be a kind of meta sheet. So if that's important to you, if not playing meta, and maybe this is a little bit less expensive of a deck. It's still kind of expensive. But if that's, important to you, that you're playing rogue decks or mid-range decks rather than the meta, then Exosister is an excellent deck for you. It's not really in a position where it's ever going to dominate the meta and therefore be nerfed. Kashtira was nerfed when it came out. It has been nerfed since, and it may get nerfed in the future. So you don't run that risk if you play Exosisters. It's a deck that you can just play anytime in any meta if you want. All right, back to our topic. Why is Exosister an anti-graveyard deck? 1, it relies on banishing your opponent's cards. 2, it can run Dimension Shifter, where this is a hand trap that makes it so that any card that would go to the graveyard is banished instead. This will stop a number of the combo decks that are currently popular kind of in their tracks. Snake Eyes relies on the graveyard. Tearlaments rely on the graveyard. Superheavy Samurai, to a lesser extent, needs the graveyard. So this is a very effective hand trap. You don't have to run it, but in this meta, I absolutely recommend it. So, moreover, this is an anti-graveyard deck because a couple of these extra deck monsters stop your opponent from utilizing the graveyard altogether. So if you manage to summon Exosister Asafiel, you can see if this card was Xyz summoned using an Exosister monster as material, neither player can activate card effects in the graveyard. And then we've got Exosister Caspatel, where again, if you Xyz summon it with an Exosister monster, neither player can summon from the graveyard. So we've got a variety of anti-graveyard measures in this deck. Banishes and just stopping play in the graveyard, and Dimension Shifter. So big plus in this meta where we have a lot of graveyard heavy decks. Let's talk about some of the other pluses. We've already talked about the minus of it being just kind of an objectively worse version of Kashtira, or a power, it's been power corrupt a little bit. Let's talk about a couple other pluses and minuses of the deck. So one of the reasons I'm making a guide and why I like this deck is because I actually think this is a very new player friendly deck. Its combo is, you want to go first. Its combo is very straightforward. You'll be doing pretty much the same combo virtually every turn, with maybe some minor variations depending on the circumstances, depending on the game state. But especially going first, your comboing will be very, very straightforward. You'll be doing pretty much the same thing every time. And it's not a very long combo or complicated combo or anything like that. Unlike, say, my other deck, Marincess. Don't get me wrong, I love Marincess. I think it's great. I do think that you can pick it up and play it as a new player. That's why I made that guide. But I think this deck is definitely a bit more new player friendly. I do think there is a drawback in that the combo can be pretty fragile, and they're just, certain cards are just a death sentence. A well-timed Imperm, a well-timed Ash Blossom, or Nibiru, they'll stop you in your tracks, and you'll probably lose. But if you go first and you set your combo up correctly, then you will have 1, 2, 3, 4 banishes at your disposal, and most of your opponents will not be able to play through 4 banishes. And we're going to see that in our gameplay. I have yapped enough here at the beginning. I guess I'll say a few words. I really should actually say a few words about the composition of the deck. This is the deck you'll see in the gameplay examples. It's not necessarily the number one optimal way of playing this deck. And I think at the end we're going to go on at the video. We're going to go on to Masterduel meta and see some other versions of the deck. So absolutely essential in any Exosister deck: 3 copies of Exosister Martha, your main combo starter. 3 copies of Exosister Elis. So Exosister Martha starts your combo by you use its effect to special summon Martha from the hand and special summon Elis from the deck. So naturally, if you're playing 3 Martha, you're going to want 3 Elis in your deck. For these other Exosister monsters, the number can vary. So I have 3 Stella. You can cut this down to 2, you can cut this down to 1, and still be okay. You'll just have to make up for it with other engine. So some people play, so you can see I've got some of these other non-Exosister monsters here. We're going to talk about this briefly. You can increase this guy at the expense of Stella. We've got 1 Irene. You only need 1, and we have 1 Sophia. We have 2 instead of 1 just because her effective, you get to draw a card if you control an Exosister monster, is pretty good. So those are the Exosister kind of core monsters in the main deck. You all are also going to want 3 copies of Exosister packs. You can see it's a quick play spell, which is very pretty convenient. And note that pretty much all Exosister spells and traps, at least the ones you're going to use, have you pay life points to the tune of 800. And this allows you to add an Exosister card from your deck to your hand. And if the other Exosister monster named on that card is in the graveyard or on the field, you can actually special summon the card you added immediately afterward. So this is a great card if you've bricked and you don't have any Exosister monsters in your hand, or as something that can extend your combo. So really, really key card. And then we have 3 trap cards. We've got Exosister Wadis. And some Exosister players don't use this at all, but most Exosister players run like 1 copy. So you can choose an Exosister monster from your deck and summon that and her opposite number onto the field, but they go away in the end phase. And finally, Exosister Returnia. You're going to want 2 of these just in case the duel goes longer than you want, and you need a second copy to grind your opponent out. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the non-Exosister cards in the deck. This is where you can really mix things up. Again, I'm not sure this is completely optimal for the current season because I haven't really been playing. So Maxi, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil in this deck. It's a necessary evil in most decks. You can try playing without it and see how well you do. I mean, I don't play Maxi in my Marincess deck, and I consistently make it to Master Rank. So it is possible to play without Maxi, but might as well have it. It is a tool you can use to win going second. Let's see. And then we have, of course, the Maxi minigame. So 3 copies of Maxi, 3 copies of Ash Blossom primarily to stop your opponent's Maxi. 2 copies of Called by the Grave to stop Maxi and other hand traps. If you wanted to go full Maxi minigame, you could throw in Crossout Designator as well, but I don't have it. Let's see. Now, in this deck, I've got 1 copy of Droll and Lockbird, which is very, very effective against Mathmech, a common deck. It's very effective against Superheavy Samurai, a common deck. I have a copy of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. This is effective against a variety of decks. Labrynth, Tearlaments, to some extent Snake Eyes, to some extent Branded. I think that's the only time you'll see it in these games is against Branded. Oh no, I think against Heroes as well. So Ghost Bell, very useful card in the current meta. I have only 1 copy of Imperm. Again, this is a card you can play up to 3 copies and be fine. It's a good card. It could just be a little bricky going first if you have 3 copies. And it just 1 negate. I don't know. It's just not very impressive against a lot of the decks in the current meta. All right. I also have some. So we've already talked about Dimension Shifter. I've also added some board breakers. I mean, you can maybe count Imperm as one, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 board breakers right here. This is arguably a bit heavy on the board breakers. Maybe you want to swap out 1 or 2, either for different board breakers or for hand traps instead. Lightning Storm, Dark Ruler, Duster, and Raigeki. Maybe you want to, switch out Raigeki for evenly matched or Dark Ruler for evenly matched. I think that's sensible. You may want to add in Cosmic Cyclone. Note that I also have one copy of Triple Tactics Thrust. So that allows you to pick up a Board Breaker. That allows you to pick up Imperm. That allows you to pick up one of your Exosister trap cards if you're unable to search it. So this is a variety of uses, but again, this is a card you can definitely replace with something else. Final thing I want to touch on before we finally get in the gameplay. We have what's called the Spirit Engine. So we have 3 copies of Sakatama, which once per turn, okay, it goes back to your hand because it's a spirit monster at the end of the turn. But what you can do is once per turn, you can reveal this card in your hand, and this card can normal summon a spirit monster. Usually, it's going to summon itself. So this basically gives you a second normal summon, and it's a level 4 monster, so you can use it as part of your combo. All right. You'll see what the Exosister extra deck monsters do, so I'm not going to talk about them for now. We'll just briefly go over the non-Exosister extra deck. So we've got Baguska, level 4, Xyz monster. This is basically something you play if they manage to resolve Max C. You can just throw down 2 level 4s and summon this and pray. Then we have Zeus, which is essential in any Xyz deck. You can summon Zeus using any Xyz monster that has battled. And it's a board wipe, so very good kind of plan B if you need a plan B. And same thing for Evil Swarm Excaton Knight, which again is another board wipe, slightly worse than Zeus, but it's not as hard to summon, if you don't have anything that has battled. And Abyss Dweller, it's anti-graveyard, not really something you're going to use, because if you're going to go anti-graveyard, you might as well use the Exosister monsters. And you can definitely replace some of these non-Exosister monsters with a second copy of Gabrina or a second copy of Asophiel as well. That is something you'll want to consider. All right, so that's a brief rundown of the deck list. Let's see it in action. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you games where we are going first, and then we're going to show games where we're going second. I think that's the best way to divvy things up. So in this very first game, we're going to see me set up my entire going first combo, and then using my banishes judiciously to stop my opponent from playing. And I just want to say all of these games are from 2 sources, either in Diamond Rank on the ladder and also in the upper levels of the Duelist Cup, so the sweaty levels of the Duelist Cup. So these are generally opponents who know what they're doing and are playing pretty conventional decks. I don't think I have every single meta deck or conventional deck in these replays, but I have most of them. So here I am going first. We have a pretty good hand. We've got Ghost Spell. We have 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is not a hard once per turn, so we are going to be able to stop 2 hand traps of theirs if we absolutely need to. And we have our combo starter right here in Exosister Martha. And we can use her effect immediately to special summon her and still have our normal summon ready for Sophia. Alright, so let's see how I get things done. Main phase 1, I use Exosister Martha's effect to special summon her from the hand. You can special summon from your hand, and if you do special summon, as I mentioned earlier, 1 Exosister Elis from your deck. So this card is vulnerable to Ash Blossom, just bear that in mind, just like a lot of the cards in this deck, unfortunately. And you'll see this secondary effect becomes important when you're OTKing, but we'll talk about this later. For Martha, if a card moves out of either graveyard, so whether it's you can move a card out of the graveyard or your opponent can move a card out of the graveyard, you can special summon from your extra deck one Exosister Xyz monster using this face-up card you control as material. So bear that in mind. We'll see this later on in the video. So they use Max C. I hit Max C with Called by the Grave. And here we go. And I use these two rank 4 monsters to Xyz summon into Exosister Kashtira. And this is how you're usually going to start your combo off. So Exosister Kashtira has a few different effects. Can't be destroyed by battle with a monster special summoned from the graveyard. And then you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If you Xyz summon this monster with an Exosister monster's material, as I mentioned before, neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyards. And 2, you can detach material from this card and add an Exosister monster from your deck to your hand. Again, vulnerable to Ash Blossom. This is the main choke point in an Exosister deck, just because no other monsters are on the field to even try to combo with or anything like that. If I were my opponent, I might still be loath to imperm this monster because I haven't used my normal summon yet, and I have 3 cards. So may want to try to find another choke point, but they have nothing, and we have called by anyway if they have Ash Blossom. And so here I add Exosister Stella to my hand. And Exosister Stella, during your main phase, you can special summon an Exosister monster from your hand. So I added Stella to my hand, I normal summoned her, and I used her effect to put Exosister Sophia onto the field from my hand. And you'll notice that all the Exosister effect monsters have this similar secondary effect. If your opponent, now this is a little narrower than Martha's effect, if your opponent moves a card out of either graveyard, you can special summon an Exosister Xyz monster. And Sophia does have a similar effect. If your opponent moves a card out of either graveyard, you can special summon an Xyz monster. And there's an additional effect of if you control another Exosister monster, you can draw a card. So that's what I did. I used Sophia's effect, and I drew another Exosister Sophia, so not the most useful. And now we're going to Xyz summon another rank 4. And again, this is completely standard. We're summoning Exosister Michaelis. This is totally typical to summon her second. So Michaelis has a couple different effects, and we're already going right into Magnifica. So can't be destroyed by battle, by a card summoned from the graveyard, and you have a quick effect Banish if she was Xyz summoned with an Exosister's material, which is almost always the case. And note that this Banish is either a card your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. So this is really, really important. And you'll in certain combos you do that you'll see later. But also is a really key component of this being an anti-graveyard deck. And then I already use this effect in the game. You can detach one material from this card and add an Exosister spell trap from your deck to your hand. Again, another kind of choke point for Ash Blossom or Imperm. And so I decided to add Returnia to my hand. This is totally normal and part of the 4 banishes that you're setting up. All monsters you control are Exosister monsters. So this is another reason why Nibiru is a total death sentence. If you have a Nibiru token on your field, you cannot use this card. Or any other, or like Baguska or anything else on your field. You can't use this card. Pay 800 LP, target a card your opponent controls again or in their graveyard, and banish it. And then if you've already Xyz summoned, you banish a second card. So this is where our fourth banish is going to come from, as you'll see. Okay, so now we're going to take these two level 4 Xyz monsters, and we're performing one more Xyz summon into Magnifica. And we're going to put her in defense mode just because, 28-28, no advantage to attack mode. And 2, when you put her in defense position, that means she is not going to be destroyed by a lightning storm. So just a little extra caution being exhibited here. So we've got 4 banishes. Let's go through them. So this is how you do your 4 banishes. If we look at Magnifica's effects, we're going to ignore the fact we're getting impermed for a second. Okay, 3 effects for Magnifica. 1, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. Pretty nifty. Once per turn, you can as a quick effect, you can detach a material and banish a card your opponent controls. And finally, when your opponent activates a card or effect, again a quick effect, you can return an Xyz monster you own, attach to this card to your extra deck, and then special summon that same monster from your extra deck with this card as material. So, the way the 4 banishes work is your opponent activates a card, has a card on the field already, and then activates a card or effect. You then, on Chainlink 2, activate this effect, and you choose Exosister Michaelis, and you summon Michaelis from your extra deck. But then on Chainlink 3, you activate this effect right here of banishing a card your opponent controls. So yeah, let's say they normal summoned Snake Eye Ash, and then activated its effect. And let's say I decided to just go start my banishing, my interaction there and then. And so I would activate on Chainlink 2, this one, and choose Michaelis. And remember, Michaelis has a banish the turn she was summoned. So that's banish, that's going to be the next banish. And then on Chainlink 3, I would activate this effect and be very careful to detach Caspatel when I do it, and then I would use it to banish Snake Eye Ash from the field. And then I would, because of the way the chain links work, I would banish Snake Eye Ash. I would special summon Michaelis from the extra deck after returning it. And Michaelis has, so that's 1 banish used up. Michaelis has a banish as well. And then, because we Xyz summoned already, Exosister Returnia is going to banish not 1 card, but 2. So that is where you get your 4 banishes. Of course, thanks to Called by the Grave, I actually have 5. But that gets reduced down to 4 because they play Infinite Impermanence, they target Magnifica, and I chain Magnifica's second effect to bring Michaelis onto the field. See, Michaelis went back into the extra deck. And because Infinite Impermanence, you choose your target when you activate, they've already picked Magnifica, and I dodge the Imperm. And look at that, they normal summon Snake Eye Ash. So I let them I let them activate this effect of Snake Eye Ash because if you chain, say, Michaelis' effect to this card, they can still choose Kurakara Div Incarnate and wipe your board, right? Wipe Michaelis off, which kills Returnia. So I let them activate the search so they don't decide to search for Kurakara Div Incarnate and kind of put me in a standstill. We can disrupt them later in the turn, no problem. And they bring out Jet Synchron, and they then attempt to put Snake Eye's Poplar, Poplar into the extra monster zone. And so here I activate Returnia. I get 2 banishes because I Exeased summon using Magnifica's effect. I banish Poplar, and I banish Jet Synchron. I do not want them getting enough bodies on the field where they can summon, a Baron de Fleur or something. So they don't have anything else going for them, and so they just put their Snake Eye Ash in the graveyard and summon Linkuriboh, and I use Michaelis's banish effect on the Linkuriboh just because I want to use it on something, and that Linkuriboh would be very annoying, so I just get rid of it while I can. I can always get rid of Snake Eye Ash, which is in the graveyard, with Called by the Grave if I absolutely have to. All right, draw phase. And look at that. So, turn 3, we've got Exosister Sophia, which we can normal summon, and then we have Sakatama, which we can use for a second normal summon, and put a Exosister Xyz card on the field. Finally, so I use Exosister Sophia effect to draw a card. And we go straight into an Xyz summon. We pick up Caspatel. And they just surrender because they know they are doomed. I could even summon a second, Magnifica. I could summon a second Magnifica. I'm going to pick up Martha. I'm going to bring out another, I could summon a second Michaelis and just go into battle phase and end the game. What have you. So he has absolutely no chance here, so he just surrenders. So that's that's pretty much a textbook Exosister going first game. You don't brick, you do your combo correctly without disruption, you get 4 banishes. It wasn't totally textbook because they had Imperm, but hey, they had something that kind of made the game a tiny bit harder, but we still won. Let's go into game 2 of going first. Little, it's always good to show games where there's a, disruption and showing that you can play through it. So here we go. And once again, we're going to start with Exosister Martha, summoning from the hand. This time she's the only monster we have in our hand that's Exosister, but we do have Returnia. And we're actually going to go straight into Michaelis. There's no point in getting Caspatel and adding another monster right now, just because we've already used Martha's effect. And Martha's the one that puts 2 bodies right on the field. I guess we could have used Caspatel, picked up another Exosister monster that we normal summoned, and hoped that they would do some graveyard interaction, and that would allow us to Xyz summon another monster. Now, in this case, that actually would have worked. Here we have Bestial Baldrake moving a card out of my graveyard. But I decided it's better to just go with Michaelis and pick up the second trap card, Exosister Wadis, so I can summon cards from my deck while they are playing their turn. And we can use Returnia to either Xyz summon those monsters that I summon from the deck, or if I manage to trigger their effects after summoning them from the deck, I can use a second banish on Returnia. So I just thought this was just a little bit better of a strategy going first. It worked out this time. They actually kind of misplay. Because they do this at the end of my turn, I can now use Michaelis' effect to banish the Baldrake. I would not have been able to do that on his turn, because Michaelis' banish effect is only on the turn she is summoned. So I immediately activate Wadis. I'm immediately anticipating graveyard action, and I also activate Max C once I know they're going to special summon. And they special summon Fallen of Albaz. Let's be honest, I kind of deserve this for being a dirty Max C player. So they're going to try to fuse one of my monsters off. And I immediately use Exosister Returnia to banish Fallen of Albaz, so my monsters don't get fused off. Did I absolutely need to do this? No. I could have been a bit more patient, I guess, and used Returnia later, and actually allowed these two effects, their effects to trigger. But here I'm going to Xyz summon them, and I'm going to summon Asophiel. Now this is where Exosister gets kind of tricky, is when you're in this situation and you're Xyz summoning a monster, choosing which extra deck monster to put onto the field is tricky. I chose Asophiel because Branded, the deck they're playing, has a ton of in-graveyard effects, especially during the end phase, that allow them to kind of regen their card, put cards back in their hand and stuff. So I did not want that recursion happening, and I didn't want them summoning cards from the graveyard and stuff like that. So I I brought Exosister Asophiel so they could not activate any effects in the graveyard during this turn. Pretty good strategy against Branded. You can also summon Gabrina for an on-field negate, or Caspidel to stop them from summoning from the graveyard. Alright, so they get Branded Fusion into their hand and manage to activate it. I'm really not that concerned, because Albion the Branded Dragon can be stopped by Ghost Bell, because its effect is you can banish fusion materials from your hand, field, or a graveyard. And if banishing from your graveyard is even mentioned, even if you don't actually do it when you use the effect, if it's even mentioned on the effect as a possibility, you can use Ghost Bell. So I use Ghost Bell to stop Albion's effect, so his combo is effectively stopped. And maybe I would have been a bit more patient with Returnia if I didn't have Ghost Bell in my hand, knowing I could put a stop to the combo. So yeah, they're doing stuff. All right, here we go. I did get, a good draw in Elis and Martha. So we've got Martha and Elis in our hand, as well as Maxine Raigeki. So this is going to be another useless. Okay. So now they take the opportunity to put Branded Fusion in their hand. They're not going to get to use it. And they didn't use Branded Opening. It's still in their hand, so I can use Raigeki without any problems. I now use Michaelis' effect to add Exosister Pax. So instead of choosing a trap card to disrupt them on the following turn, I'm getting Pax to extend the whatever comboing I'm going to do. I activate Martha's effect. And this time I bring out Gabrina. So Gabrina has a couple different effects. So if it was the turn it was Exceed Summon with an Exosister monster, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects. And then you can detach a material from the card, and for the rest of the turn, all Xyz monsters you control will gain 800 attack points. So, let's see. Okay, they're not going to be able to summon a lure from the graveyard. So they're not going to be able to bring anything out of the graveyard this turn, I don't think. So I put Pax, and I normal summon Elis. I put her on the field, so when I add Stella with Pax, I can use Pax's effect if the other Exosister monster mentioned is on your field or in the graveyard, like Elis is here. You can special summon Stella. So I haven't even used my normal summon. I use the attack boost. And now I summon Magnifica, and then I summon another Michaelis, and I just banish that Branded Regained, which can summon a monster from the graveyard in some situations, and I then attack twice with Magnifica, once with Michaelis, and end the game. Whew. Okay, so we have a couple more games going. All right, here we go. Going first. So here you'll get to see Sakatama in action again. And we just normal summon Elis, normal summon Sakatama with its effects. And no surprises, bring out Kaspatell. And I maybe should have used Dimension Shifter before using Kaspatell's Detach. I think that was actually a mistake. I thought I could chain Dimension Shifter. And I was wrong. All right, so nothing unusual. Kaspatell bringing out so here what we did with Kaspatell is we added Martha to our hand. We used Martha's effect, instead of at the very start, here in the middle of the combo, and we special summon Elis from the deck, and then summon Michaelis as usual, detach, and add Wadis. So we've got Wadis and Returnia. And we've got a defense mode Magnifica. So we've got our 4 banishes, as well as Ghost Bell. And Wadis is kind of an extra, we can do an extra summon. And we're playing against Labrynth, so they're setting 1, and now they're going to set a second card with their furniture. And they've definitely kind of bricked here, because Lovely is a brick. So this actually makes them especially vulnerable. So Lovely Labrynth here, she is their main boss monster. But most Labrynth players, like 90% of them, only run 1 copy. So if you can banish her, you can effectively cripple the deck. So in a lot of cases, I would actually go for banishing the furniture card here, because the furniture cards are also super annoying, and if you can banish them once again, you can cripple them. And again, if I actually used Dimension Shifter correctly, none of this would be happening at all, and my victory would be even easier, but whatever. So here I take the opportunity to use Returnia to banish Lovely from the graveyard. They then trigger. I then trigger Wadis, and I then use Magnifica's effect to banish this face down card, which is the very annoying Torrential Tribute. I'm glad I got rid of that, because I would have tried to special summon on. I would have been summoning on my turn, and they would have used Tribute and wiped my board, so I'm glad I did that. So they have no counterplay, because I'm just going to use Returnia to Exi summon these 2 into, say, Michaelis or Gabrina or something. Probably Michaelis, just to banish off whatever they set, etc. So they surrender because they know they can't do anything. And that's the game. So we've got one more going first. So another game where I kind of stop their grind game before it starts. And wow, we just have all gas here. 2 Elis, and Irene, and a Martha. So I normal summon Irene. So Elis, apart from being a target for Martha when she uses her effect, Elis has an effect where if you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So we are going to do that. And they managed to resolve Max C in this game. And I use Irene's effect, which is if you You can place an Exosister card from your hand and put it on the bottom of the deck and draw a card, which, not the best effect, but, I kind of want to, I didn't really have a use for this second E-list, so I got a draw and didn't get anything. I actually did get a useful card, Dimension Shifter. So, here, what I could have done, you really have a choice. When your opponent resolves Max C, you can either summon Baguska, or you can leave your Exosister cards on the field, hoping that there will be graveyard interaction that can trigger their effects. Now, I think it would have been a little bit smarter to summon Baguska here, arguably, although that means I can't use Martha's effect. Oh no, I can, because it's only Xyz, so Baguska's an Xyz. So I could have used her effect. Anyway, but Dimension Shifter and the effects of these Exosisters, where they trigger when something is moved from the graveyard, those clash, right? If everything is going to the banish pile instead of the graveyard under Shifter, you can't even use these effects. So I really should have summoned Baguska and then use Shifter, but I didn't do that. So we're against Superheavy Samurai. I do use Shifter because it's going to be too good. Again, it's going to be really good against Super Heavies. So they try to do stuff anyway, but, they have this important Link 1 that special summons Super Heavy from the graveyard. You've got a couple different cards that you have to put them in the graveyard for them to work, like Soul Piercer and Motorbike. And you also you have a Baron de Fleur play where you summon this Axel Synchro that summons a level 2 tuner from the graveyard. So none of those plays work under Shifter. And we just imperm here and just try to stop them in their tracks and succeed. They destroy our Irene, and that is the end of the turn. So we can't actually use Martha's effect here. So we draw Ash Blossom, which is a good draw. And they have 4 cards in their hand, which means at least one of them is going to be Disruption. But we have to go for it anyway. So we use Caspitel's effect to add, and we are stopped. They have Ash Blossom. Which means we have to go to plan B, which is destroy Wakaushi and then summon Zeus. So we get a board wipe, very good against Superheavy Samurai. And we got Ash Blossom on top of it, so we do some extra disruption. We should be able to survive the turn. So they start off with that Link 1 that summons from the graveyard. And we try to just stop them in their tracks right now with the board wipe. This was maybe a little premature. I maybe should have waited for them to do their Axel Synchro play. But we can Ash Blossom their follow-up. Again, this is another case where I'm confident about using my Disruption because I have hand traps to back it up. And here we go. Aratama is a perfect card. They've got Max C. Aratama is going to add a Spirit Monster from the deck. And they're down, and we add Sakatama, which can normal summon itself. So he doesn't get a summon off of Sakatama because it's a normal summon. And then we just go into Michaelis. Add Returnia. And I go right into the battle phase. I probably could have banished that card off the field. And he is not going to... I did that because I didn't want him drawing any more cards. And Returnia can banish... Oh no, I can't even use Returnia because of Zeus. You have to only control Exosister monsters. So, but with that one card, he couldn't do anything, so he just surrendered. Alright, so those are our games going first. And now we're going to look at some games going second. Going second isn't really all that different from going first. You're going to be setting up mostly the same combo line. This is another reason why Exosisters is a good deck for newer players because your combo doesn't change too much. Now there is an OTK line that we're going to see, I think, in maybe just one game. That is important to know, but let's just go through these in order. All right, Maxi and Shifter. So you got to make sure to use Shifter first. Or no, you can't. They're mutually exclusive because Maxi has to go to the graveyard and its effect name. So I decide to use Maxi instead of Shifter. I guess you can change Shifter, but I didn't. And it's good I didn't because now you're going to act. This is a really the one example I have in all these games where I really break a full board, or mostly full board. So this is Resonators / Archfiends deck. It's a combo deck where they set up like 10 negates. It's very annoying. And what they're trying to do, if they don't get disrupted at all, is they're setting up to summon a monster called King Calamity Archfiend at the start of my turn. And King Calamity Archfiend is basically a turn skip because when it is synchro summoned, the turn it's synchro summoned, all other cards on the field in the present and the future are, for the rest of the turn, negated. So you can't play anything. I guess we could play Martha. We could activate Martha successfully because her effect is in the hand, but that's it. That's the only other. That's it. That's the only thing I could really successfully activate, and I'd be stuck. And I couldn't even summon like Baguska because Martha's effect says you can only special summon Exosister monsters the turn you use her effect. So I just use Ash Blossom here. I don't know this deck well. I don't know what the opportunities to use Ash Blossom or the choke points are. So I just use it as soon as possible. And I'm kind of surprised they don't summon Baron de Fleur at any point, which really surprised me. And it gives me some room to use Imperm. So I saw this, and I activate Imperm here, because now they only have enough material on the field to do one more Synchro Summon. I figured it'd be Baron. But what they do is they put branded to. So yeah, 1 second. So now you'll get. Okay, it's not a full board. I lied. So a 2 to the branded. During either player's turn, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, Synchro summon a Synchro monster, okay, using monsters you control as material. So this is how they get King Calamity Archfiend onto the field, is this card. Now, they don't have the material to summon King Calamity Archfiend, so we've lucked out. We can play through it. But they do have, on the field already, they've got a Pop with Branded Beast. Let's see. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Cell Trap. Okay, not scary. Also not scary. But they also have this card face down that can special summon a card. I think it's from the Banish pile. It might also be from the graveyard as well. So to start things off, I've got Duster to take out their back row. And I've got Raigeki to take out their field. But before I do that, I use Called by the Grave on this guy. So again, it's going to be key no matter which deck you're playing to read your opponent's cards and make sure there aren't tricky little get-out-of-jail-free cards in their graveyard or on the field. So Soul Resonator here says if a card or cards you control, doesn't say monsters, it's cards. So he could use this on Raigeki or Duster. If a card you control would be destroyed by a card effect, well, you control a Red Dragon Archfiend or Synchro monster that mentioned it. you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So I'm going to use Called by the Grave on this card. And they decide to Synchro Summon. I play Max C, so I get another draw. At least one. So they must know what's coming when I do this. And I kind of force their hand here. So they summon Chaos Angel, now, which is target a card and banish it. I have nothing on the field to target. So he banishes this card. I mean, this is a kind of, I guess, an attempt to be clever. He banishes this card. I use Duster. He activates Red Zone, which brings this card back from the banish pile. But this card doesn't have any useful effect, so it doesn't really mean anything. All right, Duster wipes out the back row. Raigeki wipes out the front row. Chaos Angel is not immune to spell trap effects. Ooh, I've got Droplet in this deck. Good card. Another card you can add in if you want. And here we go just into my normal combo with Kaspatel. Now we activate Martha. But now I use Elis's effect, and then I use Pax to special summon. And here what I do, this was actually incorrect. So I could have actually done, well, I've got Gabrina. This actually works as an OTK. This isn't the kind of clever, cute and clever OTK, but it works. So I activate, I don't know this deck, all right? I don't know it well, so I'm extra cautious and summon Sophiel to stop any graveyard effects that could be coming. And then I do the attack boost with Gabrina and summon Magnifica, and this is sufficient to OTK. Gabrina, and then Magnifica hits twice. GG. So, broke the board. I mean, Maxi definitely contributed to that victory, but don't worry, there are plenty of going second victories on this list that do not involve Maxi. And if you want to see me win going second without Maxi, just watch my Marincess videos. I don't use Maxi in my deck at all for Marincess. All right. See, no Maxi. And here, I guess they kind of brick because I Ash Blossom their spell card here. So yeah, well, this card is equipped. You can add a level 5 or lower fire monster from your deck to the hand and then destroy the card. And if it went to the graveyard, you can target a level 5 or lower fire monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So they're probably going to like link summon. They can link summon, put this back on the field, whatever, if they need to. So yeah, this is Infernoble. This is an annoying combo deck that takes like 10 minutes for them to play through their turn. It's a pretty good deck right now. So I stop their spell card and they have nothing else to continue their combo. So here we go. I normal Stella. I use Stella's effect, and all it says on Stella's effect is you can special summon one Exosister monster from your hand, including itself. So that's what I do. I keep Martha in reserve. I don't want my opponent to know I already have Martha in my hand. So I can maybe use Kaspatel to bait an Ash Blossom. Okay, I just go straight for Michaelis. And here, actually, maybe using Kaspatel first would have been better. But it doesn't matter. I've got Called by the Grave. Note here, I actually didn't care about Ash Blossom, not only because of Called By, but because I thought I could use Michaelis' quick effect Banish to chain block her search effect. I thought I could activate her search effect for a trap card or spell card, and then activate her Banish, and I can't do that. And what I really should have waited here. Arguably. So I pick up Returnia. Then I activate Martha's effect. Caspitel now coming down. And I put another Martha in my hand as follow-up for next turn. And then I put Magnifica onto the field. I attack twice, can't really finish him off this turn. And I set Returnia. I also use Triple Tactics Thrust to put Imperm, just as some extra disruption. So I have my 4 Banishes and Imperm. Not really sure what his deal was here, but I finish him off with no problems now. So another case of my opponent you'll notice that a lot of these wins are kind of the result of stopping your opponent really from the start. Okay, another Max C game. We're playing against heroes, and it turns out we're playing against elemental heroes, which is a janky version of heroes, to be blunt. It was one of the loners in the event. I played it a little bit. We also have some evil hero cards in this version of the deck, which maybe was in the loner version. So I use Max C as soon as I know a special summon is coming. All right, so they're doing their hero thing. Okay, so this guy wipes the board, but on their turn. So we just use Lightning Storm. We've got Lightning Storm and Dark Ruler. So I actually use Lightning Storm on their spell trap cards because I'm not worried about any of their monsters. And this card, it summons a fusion monster from the extra deck. And I use Lightning Storm on it to force his hand. Right? I don't want him summoning a card that will be specifically adapted to the circumstances, to whatever I put on the field. I want him to put something on the field now. I use Maxi once again to get a draw. Boom. We get a draw. Ghost Bell's pretty good. So I start with Sakatama's effect and then normal summoning Stella. For Michaelis. I figured I don't need Caspitel because I already have Martha in the hand. Now, I probably Asaphiel, stop graveyard effects, and also for Asaphiel's second effect, which is sending a card back to the hand that's on the field. Now, I think in hindsight, I could have also I could have summoned Gabrina with Martha and using Michaelis' effect on a graveyard monster. Now, that still wouldn't have worked in hindsight. In hindsight, I still did the right thing here. So Magnifica attacks twice. I don't bother banishing the Stratos. It doesn't matter if it's banished or in the graveyard. I would rather have all 4 banishes ready this turn. So Miracle Fusion I can stop with Ghost Bell. Similar to Albion's effect that you saw earlier. Miracle Fusion, their effect is you banish materials mentioned out from your field or graveyard. He has nothing on the field. He is banishing from the graveyard. But he's got Fusion Destiny in his hand, so he gets to pop off anyway. And we have DPE, and I misplay here. So I really should have just played. But it's a very tricky play. I really should have waited for DPE here. Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, DPE for short, which is a very annoying card. It's really the only good card in the hero deck. So not only do your monsters lose attack points, but as a quick effect, you can destroy 1 card on the field and 1 card you control. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, namely its own effect, you could activate this effect and special summon a Destiny Hero monster, namely itself, from your graveyard during the standby phase of the next turn. So this is, basically here, hero players use this card and just bring it back every turn to disrupt you. I jump the gun. I should have waited for him to activate the effect and chained my banish effect to his chain. And I make a mistake here. So in this case, this is a non-target. So he is not, it's a non-target destruction. So he actually hasn't chosen my Magnifica to destroy. Now, thankfully, he's kind of out of gas. He used a Miracle Fusion already, and I stopped it. And he does not. I feel like there's another link too he can use and put another Stratos. Like, why not Stratos? Whatever. I don't know. I feel like he kind of fumbled the bag a little bit. But he is playing an Elemental Heroes deck, which sucks. And maybe that's why I managed to survive this turn. Returning it is a dead card. You need an Exosister card on the field to use it. So despite my misplay, so DPE brings itself back, just like I said it would. And I could use Dark Ruler no more here, but I don't need to. I've got enough gas in the tank to play through the DPE. I activate Martha's effect. So he immediately uses DPE on Returnia, because he knows that as soon as I get an Exosister monster on the field, Returnia can be activated, and I'm just going to use it on the DPE. So I use Sakatama's effect to normal summon itself. I activate Pax. I special summon Stella using Pax's effect, and then I Xyz summon Michaelis here, and I activate Michaelis' effect, and I banish the DPE while adding a trap card from the hand. And here, Michaelis is, because I banished a card out of the graveyard using Michaelis' effect, I can trigger Martha's effect of being able to Xyz summon. And here I use Gabrina for the attack boost. And I just negate this guy just because I can. So then I go right into Magnifica. And this was, this was a bit extra. And Unfortunately, the previous turn he had drawn 3 cards and kept 2 of them, and one of them happened to be this guy, which is Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos. When an opponent declares an attack, you can special summon the card from your hand in defense position, and it cannot be destroyed by battle. So I'm stuck, but I still have Returnia, and I still have Magnifica on the field, as well as Elis. And he immediately moves the card out of the graveyard, which means Elis's effect is going to get triggered, and I'm going to Xyz summon a monster. Next, Magnifica's Banish effect is coming down. And because I'm Xyz summoning with Elis, Returnia is also going to have 2 banishes. Kaspatel, I guess I could have summoned Michaelis, but Kaspatel stops them from summoning from the graveyard. And then Returnia, boom, 1 banish, 2 banishes, they are done. All right, next up. So I hope, y'all are seeing how straightforward this Exosister combo is, and hopefully it's something you'll be easily able to kind of emulate in your own games. Going second, we got 1-for-1. This is against Snake Eyes. Snake Eye Ash is coming down. We are going to imperm the Snake Eye Ash. Will not be able to use either of its effects of add to the hand or summoned from the deck. And they are going to summon Link Karibo and end their turn. So that means they probably have some disruption in their hand, but we've got a ton of cards that we can use to combo, so we're not too worried. So we normal summon Stella, and then special summon Elis to bring out Kaspatel, and they just surrender. They are not going to stick around for it. I think we could have definitely OTK'd them without problems, but unfortunately you don't get a demonstration. All right, next up, Dino Boy. Disappointingly, I don't think Dino Boy plays dinos. Dinos is a stun kind of archetype and trap card based archetype, and you can actually put Exosisters in a Dino deck. All right, this guy's playing stun, which is it's a deck you'll encounter, and if you're someone who was playing Dark Magician, maybe you went on a villain arc and decided to play stun because you hate the meta. So here I kind of luck out. I draw Lightning Storm, and this allows me to wipe the field because this trap card safe zone set. It's an target a card on your own field can't be destroyed or targeted. But if this card gets destroyed, that monster is also destroyed. So I took out safe zone with Lightning Storm, which took out the barrier statue. I'll say Exosister is going to struggle against stun a little bit because the Exosister monsters, they can't destroy either barrier statue or fossil Dyna, the other main kind of card that stun players put on the board. They can't take out either of those because their attack points are so low. So they can't just normal summon, beat over, and then do your combo in main phase 2. That's another kind of problem with Exosisters, but I get around it here. And we just do our combo, normal Elis, normal Sakatama, into Kaspatel. Kaspatel is going to add to the hand. We don't care about hand traps because of Called by the Grave. We put Martha into the hand. Martha's in-hand effect. Elis is in-hand effect. This is where you're going to see the OTK So we use the 2 Elises to summon Michaelis. We activate Michaelis' effect to add a spell trap, and then we use her banish. We banish from the graveyard, which means Martha's effect is going to trigger, and we're going to XZ summon Gabrina. And Gabrina is going to give us our attack boost. Next, we are going to go into Magnifica. And we are going to OTK Gabrina. And Magnifica twice brings the game to a swift conclusion. Stun player is getting what he deserves right there. All right, let's see. So a good clean OTK in that example. And we've got one more game here. Here we go. Ooh, we get to see Aratama in action on the first turn. What do we have? We've got Kashtira. Oh, good. So another kind of very meta deck. As I said, you may ask why play Exosister when you can play Kashtira. Fair question. Again, I would say it's a personal preference because you don't want to play meta decks. That's really it. And, I mean, you can make Exosister so that it's less bricky than Kashtira as well, even if it's not quite as powerful in terms of its interactions. As you can see here, all we have on the field, we've got Shangri-Ra bringing a Fenrir onto the field, and we've got the trap card. So we start with Elis, they max C, we hit max C with Called by the Grave. So one banish from Fenrir is not going to ruin our day. And one zone lock after Fenrir's effect by Shangri-Ra is not going to ruin our day. And ooh, we get hit with, now that is annoying. We're not going to be able to add a trap card to our hand with Michaelis' effect, or add a monster with Caspitel's effect. And Fenrir immediately banishes, arguably premature, but we really have enough gas to play through that one banish, as I said. So here we go. And Michaelis is hitting the field so we can banish a card. We are banishing the trap card. And then, yeah, I've got Martha in the hand, so we're just going to get another banish with Magnifica. Just banish the Shangri-Ra, and then beat over the Fenrir and Kashtira tier elements. They're going to be just, they'll have absolutely nothing left, and I had Returnia already. I was doing quite well. So they surrendered. All right, well, those are the replays. I hope, we went through these in a thorough enough way for you to get, a hang of Exosisters by maybe, going through them at a lower speed if you have to. And now we're going to finish things off by going to Masterduel meta and looking at some alternative ways to build the deck. So here are the top decks at the moment. These are decks that hit Master rank, Master 5 or Master 1, or did well in a tournament, an online tournament, I should say. So let's try to find Exosisters. Oh my gosh. I mean, we got 3 Eldritch decks. Wild. This is all quite interesting. Unchained, not surprising. A lot of this stuff. Exosister, we're already control F-ing here. Here we are, Exosister. Just one deck that has made it. I kind of want to check out these other decks too. But let's look. So on April 8th, Ahito got to Master 1. Let's see what he did. Okay, so there's some substantial differences. You'll notice that neither the deck I used nor the deck Ahito here is using has Nibiru, even though Nibiru is a decent card in this meta. But he is running Shifter. Let's see, how many packs is he's running? 3 packs, 2 Returnia and 1 Wadis, just like me. 3 Martha and 3 Elis, just like me. Now, he cut down the Stellas. He took out 2 Stellas for 2 more copies of Aratama. And he cut down a copy of Sophia, too. And he doesn't have the same hand traps. He doesn't have Ghost Bell. He doesn't have Droll. He's got 3 Effect Veilers instead. And he also is running 3 Imperms instead of the board breakers I was running. So no, I guess you can count Triple Tactics Talent as a board breaker and Imperm as a board breaker, but he isn't really doing any board wipe kind of stuff, not even Harpy's Feather Duster. That's kind of interesting. And he's got Designator for all the cards for the Maxi minigame. And okay, he does have Baguska, but no Excision Knight or anything like that. So, and he also's got a Pot of Prosperity, too, to just get a draw if you really need it, and you're bricked. So, pretty good deck. You can follow this one, you can follow my deck, or pick your own tech. Again, it's a combination of personal preference and what the meta is doing. So here's just, again, an alternative so you all know that my way is not the only way. All right, I do kind of want to check out these other decks. I got to be honest. I saw there was one Ice Jade deck on there. Kind of want to see what that's about. I want to see if there's a... I'm a Winged Dragon of Ra fan. I want to kind of see if the Ice Jade deck has Winged Dragon of Ra in there. Because you can build an Ice Jade deck. Come on. Why is it taking so long? Burn, Stun, D-Link, Invoke Dogmatica. Huge variety of things at one. A Blue Eyes deck? Okay, let's just check out the Ice Jade. Master 1. Aw, no Winged Dragon of Ra. That's too bad. But still, pretty cool. Ooh, they're playing Shifter and Ice Jade. That's interesting. So that's cool. I don't want to check out. Sorry, this is a bit random, but hey. Oh, man, my computer is not a fan of what I'm trying to do, of Masterduel meta here. Okay, nothing. Snake Eye, Lab, Tier, Branded, Unchained, Rescue Ace, Pearly, and Mathmech, Vanquish Soul, Dynamorphian. Yeah, nothing shocking here. Super heavy. This number of hero decks is a little surprising, but absolutely nothing shocking up here. Maybe more Kashtira decks. I'm surprised I'm not seeing. Blue Eyes. Okay. Okay. Bestial's in there. This is kind of a... Ooh, interesting. This is kind of a dragon pile, a little bit. Yeah, Seals. Spirit Dragon. Oh, it's kind of a control thing with Blue Ice Spirit Dragon, huh? And Chaos Angel and Archfiend. Okay. Interesting. That's kind of a dragon pile. With a Blue Eyes emphasis. Very cool that you got that to master rank, though. Oh. Okay, and I'm a Marincess player. I'm going to search for Marincess here. See who's made it. No one. No Marincess players have made it into master rank, but we have Ice Jade. We have Necros. What? Necros has made it to master rank and Marincess hasn't? That's whack, dude. I mean, I'm all for Necros doing well. Jesus. Life is hard for Marincess players, I guess. That's so funny. Alright, step it up, Marincess players. That's all I have to say. Um, this is probably my last video in a while, but hopefully, I might come back and play more if their ice barriers come out. We'll see. Alright, bye-bye.